Okay, for my first video, I wanted to talk about a little bit about compassion as well as how that relates to Buddhism and how basically the red pill movement is lacking said compassion that Buddhism brings to the table. And at the same time, how red pill fills in more along the lines of traditional Buddhism. And in my mind, it comes as a reminder of what traditional Buddhism taught us. I already noted that Buddha was a MGTOW. He was a man going his own way a very, very long time ago. I don't want to say he's the first MGTOW because I'm sure others came before him, but he's definitely a MGTOW and a very ancient one. And that brings a lot of wisdom to us, even though that I'm not a MGTOW. So this time I wanted to talk about the relationship between Western Buddhism and where it falls down as far as red pill goes. So I think I mentioned before how Western Buddhism is very, very focused on compassion, which I think is laudable. It's a very good thing. But on the minus side, I find Buddhism is not so much focused on the red pill aspects, the red pill wisdom that Buddha brought from the table, such as the MGTOW. And I think part of the problem is the fact that part of the fact is that Buddhism came into the West via Zen, which is part of the Mahayana tradition. Mahayana means big wheel, and how the original Buddhism taught was known as the little wheel, or the Hinayana tradition. And it's funny because the Mahayanas talk about compassion and everything, and then when they talk about the Hinayana, they show very little compassion. And they're very, very dismissive of the point of view. They talk about being open-minded and all that, but then when you mention the Hinayana, they don't want to be part of that. I guess you could say in a way they feel threatened by the Hinayana. So what's the difference? So mainly the difference is the Hinayana, the original Buddhism, is about self-liberation. You only worry about yourself. You only work on yourself. While Mahayana says that you make a promise to liberate all beings. Think about that for a second. Liberate all beings? That's kind of ridiculous. It has no implementation. How exactly are you going to liberate all beings? And it's the same way as like we're somehow supposed to, via society, care somehow about feminism and equality, as if in our day-to-day lives we can even have any kind of impact on the wider society. And I think overall, social justice, how are we going to solve all those problems? I think it's enough for us not to be racist, sexist, whatever, biased, bigoted ourselves. As much as we can do to treat others. And again, through Buddhism, I've gotten that strength. And I think that's where the Buddhism helps me, because I don't want to feel like I'm a bad person. I do want to be compassionate. I do want to expand that compassion. I do not like the self-centeredness that traditional red people bring. I think some of it borders on being sociopathic, where you're just focused on your own gratification. And that's wrong. And I think that's just as wrong as being a beta blue pill mangina. And I'm absolutely not preaching any of that. And, Buddhism was the middle way. And I think that this is the middle way between being a complete pushover and, on the other hand, being sociopath self-centered, where you use other people for your own ends. And so that's why I feel like I've gotten a lot of strength in my pushing back against social justice, is that I cannot be guilt tripped, because I have a very strong belief in my own essential goodness as a person. And the reason is because I work on loving kindness every single day. And I'll expand all of these topics later. But what I wanted to talk about today is that I do think that people don't really have an obligation to help other people. In fact, I think one of the most liberating things I learned in my life is don't help people. So again, like that's one of the things we hate about white knights, is they try to help people. They step into things where they don't even understand the situation. Like, oh, I will help you. Well, you don't even know what the problem is. You don't even know who the offender is. So it allows certain people to get away with bad behavior. And that's why I'm absolutely against white knighting. The other thing is it's as men in general, I think one thing that feminism covers up and male feminists lie about is the fact that we really do feel an urge to do favors for women. And some of it is to try to get sex for them. And I think that doing favors for women that don't want to have sex with us is wrong. And that mainly you should just ask for the sex first. And if you don't get it, then just cut the person out of your life. And I think that's a big aspect of how men get used to be utilities. Men are used as utilities. We're used as disposable. And we don't have to do that, but that doesn't mean we're not compassionate either. We just don't have an obligation to solve all the world's problems because that's absurd. So don't allow yourself to be used. But also, part of compassion is being civil to all people. You don't have to be rude to anybody, SJWs or whatever. I think overall, we're just better than other people. And one of the ways that we're better is we treat other people better. We'll hold ourselves to higher standards. And I think we should hold other people to those standards as well. We shouldn't have what they say is the soft bigotry of low expectations. That's true equality, is having the same expectations for everyone. And finally, I'm going to close with saying that although these are great policies, personally, you shouldn't really share these policies. Like, don't go around telling people, I don't help women or I don't help people or whatever. This is a trap that I've fallen into in the past, and it's not really helpful. People totally misunderstand this. You just come off as some jerk, and that, too, is unnecessary and ought not to be done. So that's all.